Well, friends, we have some breaking news in the world of Star Trek, which is very sparse at the moment, not in the visual realms, but according to StarTrek.com, we now have the end of my long-running joke here on the channel. Whatever happened to the announced Star Trek Con podcast? Apparently, it is coming later this year. So according to StarTrek.com here, Naveen Andrews and Ren Schmidt have been cast in Star Trek Con. The all-new scripted audio series is set to premiere later this year. And I guess this is the purplish blue audio waveform logo that we get for that. Production has wrapped on recording for the previously announced Star Trek Con, an all-new scripted audio series expanding the Star Trek universe. Star Trek Con! Lead voice cast includes Naveen Andrews from Lost as the iconic Khan and Ren Schmidt for All Mankind as Marla MacGyvers. The exciting expansion of the Star Trek universe will explore the dramatic untold events that unfolded in the desolate world of Ceti Alpha 5 after Captain Kirk left Khan and his followers stranded there, paving the way for the iconic clash in Star Trek Deuce, The Wrath of Khan. Speaking of which, if you want more coverage on The Wrath of Khan, we are actually covering that on the Best of Trek, Worst of Trek channel's Buffer Time podcast coming up this Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't know why I had a little glitch there, but I'm all right, I promise. The Star Trek Con audio extravaganza, I guess we can call it, will be available for streaming on all major podcast platforms later this year, which is, I guess, good timing considering we really have a dearth of Star Trek content after Section 31 premiered. Was that earlier this month already? I can't remember. I guess it was February of this year. We've got nothing coming up until Strange New Worlds at some unforeseen point in the future. So maybe this is going to potentially hold us over and give us a little more Star Trek content in the meantime. History remembers Khan Noonien Singh as a villain, the product of a failed attempt to perfect humanity through genetic engineering, whose quest to avenge himself on Admiral James T. Kirk led to unimaginable tragedy and loss. But the truth has been buried for too long beneath the sands of Ceti Alpha 5. How did Khan go from a beneficent tyrant and superhuman visionary with a new world at his fingertips to the monster we think we know so well? Recently unearthed, or un-Ceti Alpha 5'd, the rest of Khan's story will finally be told in Star Trek Con. And here we are seeing, I guess, some shots from the actual recording of the podcast. In the highly anticipated audio series, Naveen Andrews takes on the role of the iconic villain Khan, exploring his complex psyche and the depths of his anger, ambition, and pain. Alongside him, Ren Schmidt is set to play Lieutenant Marla MacGyvers, who definitely has a pretty rosy history. Nothing to be worried about there. A former Starfleet historian who followed Khan into exile on Ceti Alpha 5. Additional cast will be announced at a later date. I kind of hope we get some more, I don't know, well-known people, even though they're playing characters that aren't necessarily well-known. And is this going to be following the novel at all, or is this going to be an entirely reimagined story? I guess considering it's going to have Nicholas Myers involved, he probably won't base it on the novel, and it's just what he came up with in his own mind. Star Trek Con is based on a story, wow, I really should have just read ahead, by Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan writer and director Nicholas Meyer. Wow. Surprising. Kristen Beyer and David Mack serve as writers on the audio series. Star Trek Con is produced by CBS iPodcast Productions, Inc. CBS Studios Podcasting are... I really don't need to read any more of that. It's just a bunch of names at this point. So, are you excited for a Star Trek Con podcast? I know this really isn't what we were expecting from new Star Trek in 2025, but it's something. It has a decent pedigree as far as the originator of Wrath of Khan, so it may have a decent tie-in. But at the end of the day, we kind of know where it's leading, and I don't know if they're going to throw us that many curveballs, but it could prove interesting either way. I'm more excited by the potential this gives us for further exploration into Star Trek outside the realms of just the stuff they show on TV. I know a lot of other franchises like Doctor Who have just been flush with audio dramas and things like that. I feel like that is a good kind of niche that Star Trek could delve into, aside from maybe some of the versions of the audio novels that were read by James Doohan, which are absolutely 10 out of 10, no notes. You need to go track those down. Entirely perfect. Go listen to Relics. It is possibly the best audio experience you'll ever have. But are you excited for this? And do you think it will lead the way for more interesting Star Trek adventures in audio form, or just in other forms that aren't what they put on the screen? Personally, I think they need to do more video games and stuff like that as well, but kind of expanding through audio dramas, not necessarily the worst idea. I wouldn't say I'm personally super excited for this, but I am kind of intrigued by what they're going to do with it, and I am a little bit let down that I can no longer use that joke that's been running for, 5 years now of what happened to the Steady Alpha 5 podcast they announced, because it's finally happening. What do you think of this? Leave all of that down below. Like, share, subscribe, do all those fancy YouTube things. Join. And until next time, computer and program.
Join, hit subscribe.